on some DEI bogus nonsense.
I still don't know where you're going.
Okay.
Here's what I'm trying.
What are you struggling with?
No, what I'm struggling with is I'm trying to help you with your struggles. Are you saying?
I'm not struggling. I'm just giving you numbers.
Saying the fact that is your reason for saying that is the fact that money didn't go to Ukraine for the people that say make North Carolina, Ukraine to get money. Is that what your argument was about?
That's not my argument. I'm saying only 5% of our total.
But what is your point? So.
Since we're in hurricane mode, we're going to have another look at Patrick, Bet, David, and crew over at Valuetainment in the PBD Podcast, breaking down the process in which FEMA spends and allocates their funds. And since it's election season and the Democratic Party loves to run on the talking point of taxing the billionaires even more than they're already taxed, saying things like make the billionaires pay more or make the billionaires pay their fair share, which I completely disagree with in that, first of all, they already do pay their fair share. And secondly, the billionaires are the ones that employ, I'd argue, the majority of Americans, creating and providing jobs for people to pursue their own American dream. But that's not my point. My point is to ask the question, how can a government spend so irresponsibly, then claim the billionaires aren't paying their fair share? Because to me, if our federal government spent properly, they wouldn't find themselves in the situation that FEMA is right now. And so we're going to have a deeper look into what's going on with government spending as it relates to illegal immigration versus Americans facing tragedy in their own homes. This one's important to anyone that believes in an America First agenda. So let's go ahead and check it out.
FEMA has a program called the SSP. Rob, just go online and type in SSP FEMA. SSP FEMA stands for Shelter and Services Program. This is for FEMA. I'm going to read it to you from their site. They give grants to local governments and nonprofits to take care of undocumented immigrants. Congress boosted the budget from $360 million last year to $650 million this year. Watch this. In the 2023 annual report says it provides shelter, such as hotel, motel, services, food, and transportation, including including plane tickets up to $700 a person. This is undocumented. By the way, when you go back to the last one you went on the FEMA side, Rob, there's a conversation about the fact that they have $73 billion of unaccounted money. I don't understand what that was all about, Rob. I want to read this to you. This is from their website, folks. This is not a blog. As of October 2022, FEMA estimates that 847 disasters declarations with approximately $73 billion in what?
Unliquidated funds remains
open. For this audit, we focused on 79 open disaster declarations from the list that were declared in 2012 or earlier out of the 79 and had 89 authorized grant programs open as of October 2022, totaled $8.3 billion of unliquidated funds. During the audit, FEMA completed the closure of 13 declarations of 16 grant programs associated with the open declarations in our spoke, returning an estimated $5.7 billion. What does this tell you? They have the money,
of course,
if they wanted to do something with it. Tom, why don't you think they do? Why do you think there lacks the urgency?
I have got no idea why this game went over the weekend. There is, in a straight line basis, you usually have presidents and people running to the microphone and saying, I've declared it a disaster area. And then the president runs to the microphone because he wants points. I am giving Governor Vinny $1 billion in relief funds. I have also heard the cries of it's a disaster area. So normally it's very political, right? Governor wants credit, the mayor wants credit, president wants credit, and then you would hope that the governor and the mayor are very, very concerned about the people. Now you've got FEMA here ending up running a PR campaign on their own website because they're caught with their pants down.
That's right.
They're actually caught with their pants down. It's like, hey, wait a minute. What about all the time you said you wanted $70 million for this and you only used 64? Where's the money? And the time you had $85 million for this disaster and you only used 50, where's the 35? And now they're coming up and doing this math and saying, oh, with all the stuff that was here, we returned estimated $5.7 million to the disaster relief fund. They spent that much money on food, for their own parties while I was talking here. This really is irritating that you've got this bureaucrat named Mayorkas who is standing there having like this public debate and argument and talking about we don't have the funds when they do have the funds. The truth is The truth is they did spend it on, and by the way, did you notice the new name they have for it? Remember, in government, make everything taste better by giving it a different name, such as non-citizen migrants. Did you catch that? They called them non-citizen migrants. Remember, it's not illegal aliens.
Yeah.
It was undocumented
Documented, yeah.
immigrants.
Real quick.
Now it's non-citizen migrants, doing everything you can to make it. They spent the money on those. They sent it to sanctuary cities. They did that, and now they're out. Yet, what most people don't understand, I believe he was talking to Congress when he was saying that. You know, Pat, when sometimes you give a speech, they say, who's he really talking to?
Yeah.
He's talking to Congress. He's talking to Congress. You got to give me money, dudes. You got to give me money. They passed these Inflation Reduction Act that has a hidden briefcase full of cash that's going to Ukraine. We've done the autopsy on that stuff. And so now you got Mayorkas is basically, I think, in the middle of a political hurricane. Nope. Pun intended. Absolutely intended. While he's talking to Congress that he needs more money and making this very political. I don't think I'm on the page of like vote suppression. These are mostly red votes. These are there because that gets pretty hairy, and that could cause an incredible responsive turnout in the other direction.
But this comes down to one thing, and it's something that is probably the most important thing and part of this election, and that's just money and the math of where the money goes and budgeting. You know, we see every year they kick the can down the road. Oh, we'll deal with this, put more on the credit card, put more on the credit card. What's the current U.S. federal debt? $34 trillion. By the time it's 2028, whoever the next president, expected to be almost $50 trillion. Like, how big of a hole are we trying to dig here? Now, what's interesting about how the sort of the budgeting works and the appropriations bill you put in there is that there's discretionary spending and the non-discretionary spending. So what's the non-discretionary spending? I learned this when I started doing money content in 2015. Non-discretionary spending are things that basically Congress has no control of. They don't do it each year. It's not a part of the budget. It's mandated by law. That's Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, but discretionary spending, education, transportation, the environment, law enforcement, everything like that. Non-discretionary spending, you know what the budget is for that? Almost $4 trillion a year, $3.9 trillion. Discretionary spending, where Congress basically gets a vote every single year and they must approve it, $1.7 trillion. Now, to Vinny's point about how much should we give to foreign aid, how much should we give to domestic, here's something to consider. Do you know what percentage of discretionary spending goes to domestic versus foreign? This is actually important. What percentage of the $1.7 trillion stays in the country versus leaves the country?
How much leaves?
5%. So 95% stays in the country. When I talk about the discretionary spending, transportation, environment, law enforcement, everything that's going like that, 1.6 trillion of the 1.7 trillion stays in the country. Now, if you ask the everyday American, they will agree with you. They'll be like, no, we need to keep all the money, the majority of the money in the country, help our people. Who wants to hear that FEMA's broke? Ridiculous, especially during hurricane season. Like, what are you thinking?
You know, Adam is probably my least favorite character on this show. And I have to say, I wish he was showing receipts for the numbers that he's claiming right now, because I don't believe it that it's only 5%. And if it is still 5%, that's way too much in my opinion. If it leaves out Americans that are being stranded from natural disasters and are in their own homes, right? Because we know that hurricanes hit every year. That's something that should be basically accounted for way ahead of time. That's what Ron DeSantis does. That's what some of these other, ironically red states do. People that are, conservative. It's funny how conservative and liberal actually relates to spending when it comes to government leadership as well. But anyways, I wish you would show those numbers, because I just don't believe that sending, $300 billion or $200+ billion to Ukraine, plus all the aid that goes everywhere else for fighting foreign wars, is only 5%. And if it is, it looks like we don't have it in the budget to give those people, those other countries, that money. So when we have to trim the fat, we have 5% to work with. And, it's simple to me. When Americans need it, Americans get it over foreign countries. Pretty simple, right? Especially when other countries in NATO aren't paying their fair share, which is a big talking point from Donald Trump. And frankly, where are our allies right now? If we're in such a bind, where are our foreign allies who we take care of 99% of the time? How come they're not sending funds? How come they're not creating fundraisers and their citizens are throwing money in to help provide for Americans in distress at this time of tragedy and turmoil? You know, it's always money going out, never money coming in. And I'm pretty sick of it, frankly. So let's continue.
But also understanding that only 5%.
Where are you going, bro?
I'm just saying that it's not as ridiculous as it seems. Like if you do the math on it, only 5% of the $1.7 trillion of the discretionary spending.
I don't understand what you just said. So what does that have to do with them not having money that's been unaccounted for and unliquidated to spend on something like that?
Obviously they're not doing their budgeting correctly. But this has nothing to do with the foreign spending because...
my thing is
hear me out.
Okay.
Hear me out. This has to do with what they're choosing to spend money on non-discretionary spending. Now, if you ask me, I assume if we look under the hood here, I assume they spent a lot of money on some DEI bogus nonsense.
I still don't know where you're going.
Okay.
Here's what I'm trying.
What are you struggling with?
No, what I'm struggling with is I'm trying to help you with your struggles. Are you saying?
I'm not struggling. I'm just giving you numbers.
Saying the fact that is your reason for saying that is the fact that money didn't go to Ukraine for the people that say make North Carolina, Ukraine to get money. Is that what your argument was about?
That's not my argument. I'm saying only 5% of our total.
But what is your point? So we just went through all the history of stuff with FEMA. You decided to go there. I'm trying to get the climax.
Let me simplify it for our audience. We're under the impression from Vinny. I said to Vinny that all our money is going to Lebanon, to Ukraine, to everything. Well, it's only 5%. So the money that is staying in the country needs to be allocated better. Or maybe a budget needs to put less than 5% to foreign aid.
This is not the conversation at all. I
don't understand what you're talking about, Pat. We're talking about foreign spending versus domestic spending, discretionary versus non-discretionary.
What part of everything I shared with had to do with foreign? It's like
Vinny's
we're talking about...
entire rant was about foreign aid. How much money is going...
No, he said Lebanon, $150 million.
Lebanon just got on the
but
fourth.
Also Ukraine.
Yeah,
no. The biggest thing with the Lebanon case that he made, $150 million is nothing.
Yeah.
But the whole point, this is the point about him saying $150 million. You ready?
Yes.
Okay. So let's just say, God forbid, someone you love just died.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And you need my help. And we're at a family gathering. An hour after somebody you love just died, I announce, hey guys, I'm giving Joey's best friend's cousins, sisters, best friends, brothers, high school teacher, $750,000 to help him out. That's the problem with what he's saying. The timing of after someone died, I'm giving a stranger $750,000. It's not the dollar amount. Let me give you guys an update here about election night. So election night, that's coming up November 5th. It's going to be the biggest.
And that's why I appreciate Patrick Bet David. He was able to break that down way better than I was. I'm just going to be honest. I'm still working on my craft. I'm trying to get smarter. And, seeing analysis from Patrick Bet David saying, how does that relate, Adam, to what our point is right here? And he couldn't really give a good answer. He tried to say that it was a rebuttal to Vinny's point of, we're spending too much overseas. And the point being that the United States government under Joe Biden and Kamala Harris aren't spending money appropriately, where they know there is an immediate need for Americans that is essentially their family and their responsibility to take care of, essentially go and give money away. And Adam wants to make the point that it's only 5%. And I'm sure he's made the point before that, illegal immigrants only commit 5% of the crime or whatever. We've heard that before from the Democratic Party that, the pundits like to say that illegal immigrants commit less crime than American citizens. But the reality is any of it is too much. It's on top of what we already have. and it affects people unnecessarily in scenarios where preventative measures, proper spending, proper budgeting, proper law enforcement would have prevented it from happening in the first place. And so when Mayorkas is out here claiming that FEMA is out of funds and Kamala Harris is going on Colbert Report, fake drinking a beer, taking a teeny sip, all this nonsense that's completely just out in left field. We'll use, we got baseball hats on today. It's a big game for Royals and Yankees tonight, Game 3. But that aside, I'm just using that as a reference, right? When they're out there in left field and it's less than a month to the election, and these people are trying to get Americans to vote for them, to support them, to become her, essentially, Kamala Harris, to be the most powerful person in America and essentially the country, and essentially the world. So I don't know. These people are out there pretending to be presidential when Donald Trump is actually presidential and has a 4-year track record of being it. I don't care what you say. If you disagree, then you're in the wrong place, frankly. Still hit that like button, though. But really, though, seriously, Kamala Harris campaign, Joe Biden, these folks are completely misguided, and they've basically prioritized anything other than Americans. And so for me, from an America First perspective, I'm completely dissatisfied. And, it's now affecting my fellow brothers and sisters, my fellow Americans, and it's pretty disgusting. And I mean, even think about it like this. If you're Jewish in America and you support Israel, you just saw Kamala Harris and Joe Biden give money to Lebanon, aka Hezbollah, in my opinion, rather than give it to your fellow Americans. So I don't understand how so many of these people could even consider voting for a Democrat in this upcoming election. If you care about America, if you care about Americans, you should vote for Republicans, and that's just the way that it is right now. And I hate saying vote Republican down ticket because I'm typically not that kind of person. I believe in voting for people that align with your, what's going to make your immediate scenario better. But right now, it's Republicans down ticket. Until we can get something resolved on a grander scale over time, which is going to take time, it's just simply Democrats can't be in leadership. We need to send this signal. We need to send the message that, hey, you guys are completely on the wrong side of history. You guys are on the wrong track. You don't know how to spend. You don't know how to prioritize. And we don't support it as the American people who you are supposed to work for, and you're letting us down. And so with that, if you agree, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. You're definitely in the right place. Share this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.